just standing there, menacingly.
Controversies. You cannot look at anywhere on the internet without seeing a controversy about a certain person or a certain type of media, and Five Nights at Freddy's is no exception. Today I want to discuss what I think are the top 5 biggest controversies to ever come out of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. I must clarify, I'm not stating my opinions on any of these. I'm going into this for an unbiased lens. I do not intend to cause drama with this video. This is just an address piece. Without further ado, let's get into this. So, Aftonbuilt was a rejected FNaF fan game for the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, developed by Jelly Liam, who is best known for the Final Night series. The game centers around you playing as a mechanic who agrees to help Afton build a new animatronic body for him to continue his ever-so-consistent crimes in the series. The gameplay centers around you being given tasks, often or not involving scrapping the main animatronics. After it was rejected by Scott Cawthon, Liam released a pre-alpha build of the game on April 12, 2022, initially being met with praise and such questions as, why was this rejected? Liam, not too long after the release of the build, posted an AFQ devlog on the GameJolt page, which answered common questions about the game and what happened when it came to being rejected from the fanverse. The main takeaway was it was rejected for simply being too ambitious. A lot of people were confused by what that meant. Besides confusion, there was no real controversy up until fellow content creator FNaF approached Jelly Liam for an interview about this whole thing, and Jelly Liam agreed, and basically what happened, Jelly Liam essentially revealed somewhat of too much. So much that it actually broke Liam's NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, that he signed for Scott Cawthon. Basically, one of the big requirements to join Scott Cawthon's Fazbear Fanverse Initiative is basically you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement for him, which basically means the people who sign it can't disclose or mention any private information that's going on behind the scenes with this initiative. I'm not going to mention what Liam said that made him break the NDA because it's information that's not meant to be public and was only made public by pure accident. However, there was some controversy with this, directed at Scott Cawthon, directed at Jelly Liam, and directed at FNaF. The complaints directed at Scott consisted of how he would leave Jelly Liam and the team of Aftonbuilt to dry for weeks. The complaints directed at Liam were the fact he broke the NDA in the first place, and that he didn't inform his team that he agreed to this interview. And the complaints directed at FNaF consisted of the non-Aftonbuilt thumbnail, which was accused of clickbait, the fact that FNaF kept defending Jelly Liam, and the biggest complaint directed at him was refusing to take down the video and confusing to monetize and all of that. This controversy was not pretty. Phil Morg, or Fisnum, is one of the most recognizable people in the FNaF community, or at the very least in the fan game side of things. He is currently developing FNaF Plus, a reimagining of the first Five Nights game. He's also made other fan games before this. Now, Phil has gotten into controversies in the FNaF community multiple times, but the biggest controversy that he's ever had in my opinion was his response to Security Breach. When Security Breach released, he streamed the game, even using a bingo sheet that basically mocked how predictable and cliche the game was going to be, and basically, he thought the game was much worse than he thought it would be, and he did not enjoy himself at all besides a few moments like the DJ Music Man boss fight. He went to Twitter and released a statement saying how he hated Security Breach, how he thought it was doomed from the start, how he said he was going to leave the FNaF community because of the fact he didn't like the direction of the franchise was going for a long time, and how he would still be developing FNaF Plus and try to use his experience with Security Breach to make Plus better. This had very mixed responses from people. There were people that either agreed with him and completely understood what he was talking about, and there were people who completely disagreed with what Phil said and or how he went about it. This caused a stir in the community over whether or not they should still support FNaF Plus, since it was a fan project being created by someone who wasn't a fan of the franchise. However, this controversy wouldn't have happened if it weren't for another. When Security Breach released, it was met by a very mixed response. There were people who loved the game, but there was also people who hated it. People loved it for its graphics and characters and its expansion on the FNaF formula, but people hated it for the bugs, the lore and endings, the gameplay even, and all around there was a mix of opinions. However, what makes this backlash so controversial is because of how much it divided the FNaF community. A A lot of people have gotten more antagonistic and more stuck up on how they express their opinions on the game, and even other aspects of the series. People started treating their opinions as facts, and it led to massive arguments online, mostly on Twitter. It's a whole cesspool. In the FNaF community, Jonachrome was known as the developer of the One Night at Flumpty's trilogy. On Halloween 2021, he released the first and final game of the trilogy, One Night at Flumpty's 3. It was initially met with praise, and people claimed it as one of the best FNaF fan games of all time, along with the 2 other games. However, on November 8th, 2021, Jonachrome was exposed to be a child groomer. Apparently he, as a 20-year-old man, dated a 14-year-old girl. People were initially in denial at first because of how the proof was just screenshots that almost looked edited. However, Jonachrome confessed to it and made multiple statements on the matter. The responses from people were a complete mind hive. There were the few people that still defended him and still wanted to support him, either because they were kids and didn't understand the gravity of the actual situation, or they legitimately didn't see what Jono did was wrong, or at the very least, didn't think he deserved to be held accountable for these actions. And there was the other side that criticized and outright canceled Jonachrome for these actions and labeled him as a pedophile and a groomer and a creep and all of that. Jonachrome's reputation was heavily ruined because of this, and there doesn't seem to be a comeback in sight. This is by far the biggest controversy associated with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, simply because it's all about the creator of the franchise himself, Scott Cawthon. Essentially what happened was on June 10th, 2021, someone digged through Scott Cawthon's private political donations and leaked them online with the purpose of canceling him. These political donations specifically were donations given to politicians like Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, who have a negative reputation in the LGBTQ community. A lot of people were upset at Scott Cawthon for these donations, and were questioning whether or not to support him in the Five Nights franchise simply because the money for Five Nights at Freddy's went to him, and likely went to his donations. Scott even got doxxed for this. However, there was also a lot of people defending him, saying it was just his personal beliefs that he's allowed to have, and even stating that Scott is not actually LGBT-phobic. Scott would make a Reddit post addressing this controversy, and then he eventually posted an image on scottgames.com which officially announced his retirement. This is a topic that is extremely controversial because of the amount of debates and conflict and division among people. A lot of people get fiery about this, whether it's in support of Scott or not. A lot of things have been done to push both sides and narratives. These debates have seriously divided a bunch of people, both in the community and general masses of the internet, and this should be addressed, as well as every other controversy in this video. And all of this is just simply why Scott Cawthon's donation controversy is the biggest Five Nights at Freddy's controversy of all time.